Our research questions for the second year of the study are as follows. What are the current costs of nutrient management in the Falls Lake watershed, and who is responsible for these costs? How do stakeholders currently pay for nutrient management? How can existing revenue sources be expanded, and are additional revenue sources needed? And will existing governance structures be successful, or do we need to explore other models?
Yeah.
In the second year of research, the Environmental Finance Center is developing a revenue shed tool to model an area in which money is generated to pay for nutrient management in Falls Lake. So the revenue shed for Falls Lake includes both folks in the watershed or the water quality revenue shed, and folks who get water from Falls Lake or the water supply revenue shed. The revenue shed tool will allow us to model how much money can be generated from water, wastewater, stormwater, and property and sales taxes. So here's a little bit of a look at what the water revenue shed tool looks like. So we'll be able to increase the volumetric cost per 1,000 gallons of all the water customers who get their water from Falls Lake. And then we could also increase a monthly base charge per water account. And then we're also going to analyze what the effect is on the ratepayer. So you can see in the bottom left corner of the tool here that there is a look at what the bill increase means as a percentage of 20th percentile household income for the ratepayer. And we're using 20th percentile household income because of the fact that it looks at the effect of the lower income ratepayer rather than median income, which might be certainly a little bit higher and sometimes much higher than the 20th percentile household income.
Also, as part of our research, we interviewed different stakeholders within the Falls Lake watershed and the revenue shed. This included jurisdictions, counties, and towns, but also the Farm Bureau. We also talked to folks from UNRBA. So the measures that have already been taken include upgrading wastewater treatment plants. That has made a big impact on reducing the amount of nutrients going into the watershed. Also, the most common measure taken was updating ordinances or creating a new ordinance for new development. Land conservation is also a measure that was very common, and most jurisdictions did that in partnership with other jurisdictions or other land trust organizations. And one thing to note there is that although some jurisdictions were already buying land and using it for conservation purposes, some increased their analysis or made a different decision matrix for deciding which land to buy and which land to prioritize because of the Falls Lake rules. Additionally, many jurisdictions have changed or increased their zoning rules. Some have increased stormwater control measures within the town or changed their practices. And then a few have even created a stormwater utility and a fee that specifically funds their stormwater work. There were other measures taken as well. Some jurisdictions noted that they had already been taking measures to reduce nutrients before the Falls Lake rules were written because of previous rules or just because of practices that they had. So those were already going on and weren't necessarily because of the Falls Lake rules. They might have been changed or increased because of the Falls Lake rules. Another question we looked at was what has funded all of these measures that jurisdictions have taken to reduce nutrient load? And the variety of funding mechanisms, the most specific to nutrient loading was specific stormwater fees in certain jurisdictions. Some jurisdictions have used general funds and some have used grants from other organizations or a specific add-on to a rate. And then also jurisdictions fund their measures by plan review fees, especially for new construction. In addition to interviewing jurisdictions, we interviewed some folks from the Farm Bureau Federation to ask about the agricultural community and where the funding has come from for those measures. And one of the main takeaways from the interview was that although farmers have been using different measures to reduce nutrient loading for years, it can be really hard to see that take effect and be able to measure the change with these non-point sources of pollution. And a lot of the measures that have been taken been through a cost share program where farmers pay at least part of it. And you can see there listed a number of the common measures that were taken by farmers. Finally, one of the key takeaways from our interviews is that participation in UNRBA has been very beneficial, especially for the small jurisdictions who may not have been able to fund the modeling or the advocacy themselves, and also has created a community where jurisdictions and stakeholders can connect and collaborate on these rules. And so there's a lot more communication and open discussion about what's going on. And this is, how something like the IAIA could be implemented or developed because all of these jurisdictions are coming together.
So what's the outlook going forward? In our interview process, we found that all the interviewees were in support of the IAIA, and that was no surprise because a short time later, the UNRBA Path Forward Committee voted to formally adopt the IAIA. And we also are looking forward to seeing the IAIA begin in July 2021, shortly here in the next few months, and follow it over the next year and to see how implementation looks and maybe ways in which collaboration is increasing and folks are seeing projects getting put in on the ground level. Stakeholders in UNRBA are excited to see projects completed. They've been very pleased with the modeling efforts. They've been very pleased with the advocacy, but they're really excited to see projects being completed on the ground as a result of this effort. Stakeholders are more willing to spend money inside their own jurisdiction, we found, and take credit for projects in which they've already accomplished or intend to accomplish in the future, but they also don't want to lose credit for work that has already been done, and they don't want to lose potential projects within their own jurisdictions where other entities might be going in and taking credit for those projects. However, the collaborative nature of UNRBA and the IAIA is allowing each individual to be in compliance as long as the whole group is in compliance with this stage one at this time. What are some policy implications that we have identified? Right now, the IAIA is sufficient for current spending levels and for current regulatory needs, but it's unclear to the extent to which it will be sufficient for stage 2 needs. And right now, stage 2 needs are uncertain because we don't know what the re-examination of the rules will lead to. We don't know if there'll be a site-specific standard for Falls Lake that will mean that total spending needs is reduced substantially. There may be a need for expansion of current revenue sources. And certainly going into stage 2, whatever the re-examination process leads to, jurisdictions have already identified that potentially they might be having to raise current fees. And if these current revenue sources aren't sufficient, are there future revenue sources that need to be either created or certainly the legislature may need to craft new policy that will allow for something like perhaps a watershed authority model moving forward. And then we need to consider affordability for ratepayers. And we've done that in the revenue shed tool, but we'll also do it at more of a qualitative level in our final report. And then the EFC is also looking at how the potential methods for paying for nutrient management might be useful in informing the rule revision process. How can the ability for the jurisdictions to pay for those rules inform the process of making the rules in the first place? So next steps for the Environmental Finance Center, we're going to explore how national case studies for nutrient management, case studies in which we've looked at for the past 3 years for Jordan Lake, how these can be synergistic for UNRBA efforts and how they may be able to inform the re-examination strategy. We're going to finish the revenue shed tool and get the data from Falls Lake in there and get that up on our website so stakeholders can see what the effect of raising different revenues are on their ratepayers. And then we're going to complete a couple more final interviews and gather as much information as possible. And then we'll finalize all this in a report and then make some policy recommendations where we see fit. And throughout this entire process, the EFC has been providing ongoing support for the Jordan Lake One Water Association. And what we learned from this process might be able to inform our recommendations for UNRBA and for the stakeholders in the Falls Lake watershed. So here's the moment everyone's been waiting for, our 2-sentence summary. The current financial needs for nutrient management in Falls Lake are relatively low, given the successful IAIA process and the delay of stage 2. However, future financial needs are more uncertain, though they are very likely to be higher after the IAIA process is complete, and this may necessitate different funding and policy approaches. Thank you everyone for listening, and below is our contact information, so feel free to email us or call us, and we can certainly talk to you directly, and if you have any questions that we'd like to answer in the group setting, now's the time.